Welcome to Daggers and Shadow Daddies.
We're your hosts, Ryan and Adriana.
Buckle up, Buttercup. Then when she makes a mistake, she's like, we're going to figure it out. It's fine.
The mistake of making a deal with like the shadow demon in the basement of a mountain.
There's a million Feyre mistakes, and she's like, we're going to get through it just fine. Don't stress about it. And then Rhys like wipes somebody's mind when he shouldn't, or doesn't wipe somebody's mind when he shouldn't, and maybe kills a guard. She's like, we're never going to financially recover from this. Like, what the fuck? He's fine. He's been fine for 550 years. You've been a pain in the ass for 2 years.
Chapter 28 starts with Feyre practicing flying with Azriel and fighting with Cassian. I found that a little odd. I find the flying to be kind of a waste of time.
Yes, agreed. In a world with winnowing, it's stupid.
Yeah, she just wants to fly with them. She's like, will I be able to fly with the army? I don't know what she's trying to do. I don't know what her goal is. Why fly?
I think if you're looking for the argument on flight, right, vantage points are better from the sky. And no different than humans, we can run, but we tend to walk places too sometimes. If it's all about the pertinence of getting from one point to another efficiently, we have modes of that.
Because Mor can't fly, right? Mor doesn't have wings.
Correct.
So Amren doesn't. I don't know. It just seems so pointless and like such a waste of time. They're like every second counts.
Yeah, again, I don't know. I can see just the wanting to fly. Everybody that can seems to want to. So assume there's something to it. It's like dunking a basketball. Getting good at 3-pointers is infinitely more effective, but a dunk is cool.
I have Mor and Rhys work things out, but then again, at the end, I realized I wrote that again. So they work things out multiple times throughout this, which is really nice. I don't remember how they work things out. Oh, Rhys the next morning after talking with Feyre, he just goes and he talks with Mor and just tries to smooth things over.
Yeah, which I appreciate that it was left ambiguous, because I have a hard time imagining what his defense would be.
I thought Mor was like, pretend like everything's fine, because she's just like, well, this is war, so all the men get their way.
Yeah, it must be. She
didn't seem too pleased with this initial apology or working things out, and I realized now that there were multiple times that they worked things out, and I think that was a nice touch, because it doesn't take just one time apologizing for what he did.
No, I would agree. I would imagine that it would take more than the 2 or 3 days it's been, to be fair, is a huge breach of trust.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not enjoying who Rhys is, but I'm appreciating the fact that he isn't written perfectly.
Did you catch the small detail at the very end of these chapters where Rhys asked, I think, Cassian, Mor, and Azriel to go check on Kier and them to make sure that they're okay? And I found that so wild that he asked Mor.
Yeah, there's something to that.
He's careless.
No. I don't think anything he's done has been without consideration.
That makes it kind of worse.
Yeah, but That's what I'm saying is I think that points to the necessity of what he saw he had to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not suggesting he's correct in that. I'm just suggesting that he's not thoughtless. His actions always seem to be motivated.
Yeah. I don't know what I think of all of his decisions.
Oh, I think it's a mixed bag for me. Some of them I really appreciate. Some of them, no, not even a little.
We got through enough in these that we now realize what happened with Elaine, and it was here that the healer found nothing wrong with her. Nothing really much came of that.
And Feyre put her foot down for the very first time with Nesta that we saw ever.
Ooh, what do you mean? I don't remember this.
Nesta says, get another healer. Feyre bares her teeth and says, shut the fuck up.
Those moments are so funny with baring your teeth.
It's just like flexing jaws. If I could have a little counter for every time somebody flexes their jaws or flexes their hands.
Oh, there was a new way it was worded with Lucian feathered his jaw, or like a feathered muscle in his jaw.
Yeah, which again, it makes sense, but that means these people are just gritting their teeth all the time. I'm assuming the Fae have just powder teeth.
Just such attention to detail to catch like that little muscle doing something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand what it's supposed to elicit either. if that's the most obvious point of their body language, the area I would say that this is really well done in is she addresses several times how they're so still. It's like the Fae have a stillness about them. Therefore, you might notice when the only muscle in their face that's moving while they're not speaking is their jaw muscle.
That gives, what is that stupid book and movie?
Can you give me a little more?
Sparkly Men.
Twilight
vibes. The way she talks about them does remind me a lot of Twilight and how what's her face just idolize them.
I think we're going to run into that with a lot of these. It's
This
all
genre.
young adult fantasy romance.
Yeah.
I think that's the objective.
To just think that they're...
Yeah, every muscle in their body is always a focus.
She just thirsts after all the men. Even the, like, bad guys, the Raven men. And she's just, like, in their tight shirts.
Well, yeah, their shoulders were uber broad, but because of the width of the arms on their jackets, you could tell there was muscles underneath. And because of those muscles, you knew they knew how to use swords.
I was just going to say
I'm
that.
like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, you could give so many bodybuilders swords and they'd have no fucking idea what to do with them.
I stand no chance with those muscles.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure there is a 115-pound, 5'3" dude out there that could wield a sword and beat my ass. Holy hell.
Oh, and the healer said she could not see into Elaine's mind, and she urged Feyre not to do it.
Is that what she said? Said don't even try?
She says, you shouldn't, don't, yeah. Because she's like, I know how you Daemati are. And not quite like that, but something referencing. She knows that Feyre's Daemati.
I didn't pick up on that. I'm sure you're right. I didn't pick up on that. I thought she was saying, like, don't keep pushing. The wall's just going to get thicker, like scar tissue, so to speak, because she brings up the point of her mind she couldn't get through were the parts most deeply affected by the cauldron.
Okay,
Right.
maybe that's how it was. I was taking it as it's dangerous for Feyre to try, as in she might get trapped or something bad would happen to Feyre if she attempted. I bet you're right. I bet I was just reading into it.
No, yeah, I think you could be totally right. And again, that old lady seems super wise. Nesta's a dick. The only time Nesta's done anything that I'm going to hold against her currently, other than when she was also with Feyre and not being helpful when they were young, the only current thing she's done that I'm really holding against her is that she was such an asshole to this lady.
Yeah.
Because
But you
that
have-
sounded like a sweet old lady.
I was just going to say, you have a soft spot for older ladies and grandmas and whatnot. And this woman was just like slowly walking down. And Feyre made a point that she was there in case she needed help walking down the steps. I think there was even the small detail. She didn't even make it all the way down the steps before Nesta was up her throat. No, down her throat. No.
Up her ass, down her throat.
Yeah.
She was in one end or out the other. But I think Nesta being such a jerk is what we expect because it's a reaction of fear for her sister, right?
Oh, I love that there was finally this question that Feyre asked her. Why do you push everyone away except for Elaine?
I love that there wasn't an answer.
There wasn't. No.
They
wasn't
finally asked the
yet.
question. She immediately goes to answer it, and that's when the ravens show up, which brings us to the most important part in these 7 chapters.
Yeah.
Is Elaine the Oracle?
Yes.
Hey, look at that. She's a seer.
Yeah, I'm just going to call her an oracle.
Okay.
Nesta doesn't like the word seer either, so
Yeah, no. yeah,
she's an oracle.
Same.
In chapter 29, that's when they were trying to use Lucian to test Elaine to see if she's doing okay, and he like tugs thread, and they talk about it so literal. I don't comprehend what any of this is, other than there's just this invisible thread that they know how to tug emotionally, mentally.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it's like in their mind palace.
Yeah.
Like they're corporeal in their mind as well, which I find interesting.
And this thread is attached to her rib.
She described it, the tug, as feeling like there was a string attached to her rib. Yeah. Which I would take that as just like, have you ever broken your ribs?
No.
There's probably other examples. Maybe when you get like pleurisy. And
I did have that.
so when you breathe, you get this sense of something being pulled. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I mostly remember the stabbing feeling.
Same. But it's, when you break a rib, it's kind of like that, like when you breathe heavy or you sneeze, it's this very sharp, odd pain. And that's what I think she would be attributing to like a string on her rib, where it wouldn't necessarily be pain though, just sensation. And I think we related to the rib as just being center of our body.
Yeah.
Right?
For some reason, I pictured it was the bottom rib. There was no reason for that.
Otherwise, it'd be through a boob.
Yeah.
So I'd say run with it.
It felt like a tug on the nip.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know.
They were building.
Tug on my bond.
Oh my God.
Suck my bond. Could be anything. Like a lightning bolt to the penis. We haven't heard a man describe yet what the tug is like.
Oh, they're the ones tugging on it.
Feyre does.
Does she, or does she like scratch his mind wall?
Well, I think that's kind of more her Daemati thing. But she's discussed tugging on the bond. See if Rhysand would tug back, blah, blah, blah. When they broke the curse, it was like before they went to Highburn or something. I think she had a moment where she was like, and I tugged against the bond.
And I think even in these chapters, when the Raven men showed up.
Yeah, no, she was pulling on the bond. She was trying whatever she could do. But we can't get there yet. Nesta was building walls with Amren in her mind. Why the fuck do we say in their mind? We know. Stop saying they're doing it in their mind. We don't think they're in the kitchen literally assembling walls. But she feels the need to preface it every time with, and they were practicing building walls in their minds. I'm like, please stop.
Maybe because here soon they're going to be actually building walls.
Maybe they will be construction workers doing it in the kitchen. Prefab. They're going to prefab wall panels. That's what's going to happen. And if it doesn't, then I want an apology.
Thankfully, she doesn't do it when she's talking about their mental walls of, oh, she kind of does.
She does. She says, I felt this ripple on her mental bond or whatever. And it's like, we get it. We know. Please stop. And what is the Rhysand's walls and hers are not obelisk. What are they? Oh my God, we heard it so much for a while.
Obsidian?
Yeah, I think it is. The obsidian walls around his mind. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't know. I'm just having a moment. We're like, you have to be kidding me. We just keep readdressing things. And I assume it's because, like us, if you were reading this and then came back to it later, to help refresh your mental picture, give us something specific. I think it's great. I think it's just when you happen to listen to chapters that are very near each other where it does this, so close together in time, you're like, yeah, we get it. Quit reiterating.
We're also 30 chapters in.
Yeah, where the book starts to get good. It does. These are awesome chapters. I know I seem so down on this right now. These were awesome chapters. Even the ones we're discussing, I thoroughly enjoyed.
It finally picked up, but this is the third time that we hit chapter 30, and I am interested, like truly intrigued in wanting to read the next chapters.
I felt that way about some of the chapters prior to this, too. To be honest with you, this is my favorite book so far, including the Empyrean series.
It's not from me. I like it because it's continuing a story on, and I want to continue to hear the story. But I wouldn't say it's a favorite of mine.
I think the way that I'm seeing this is there has been so much just the dynamic range between each one of the characters that they'd kind of built on before. As much as I like to give Feyre shit about being Sherlock Feyre for the first 15 chapters, and then going back to dipshit Feyre for the next 15 chapters, there is a lot of interesting maneuvering happening.
I like that they're not the same static character. There is differences. And sometimes they shock me and confuse me. I'm like, wait, what? I didn't think you would make a decision like that. Azriel, for example. Mor was even shocked by it. And hearing her shocked by it was nice because I felt the same exact way.
I would agree. I think Azriel making that decision initially, I looked at it as kind of poor character writing. Right, where it was almost like Sarah J. Maas forgot what his character was supposed to be like, but then having Mor be equally surprised and disappointed did just validate that he's not a one-note character. And I would say that's a strength she has. Every one of these characters, you could see an internal dichotomy.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
And even seeing their decision making and getting a deeper look at it rather than you just have to kind of sit with it. Feyre mulls over their decisions, which I also like.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to characters like Tamlin. In the first book, a part of you really likes Tamlin toward the middle to kind of middle end, I would say. Like 3/5 of the way through the first book, you like Tamlin.
I really struggled. It seemed... It
wasn't all the way through, but it was when Feyre was still being an asshole. And at this point, he had taken her to like the little Starlight River thing. You know, he had really tried to make some moves out there. And then you're kind of identifying with the fact that he's doing all of this to save his court, as well as actually developing feelings for her and then wanting her to paint and express herself. He did dipshit things too, like the way he thought he would try to teach her how to read, right?
He tried doing that?
Yeah, so remember, she had written down words that she didn't understand in the children's book. She had copied those words, she'd thrown that away, he had picked up the note, and then he wrote her kind of a smutty letter, like a smutty note using those words, which ill-conceived plan. Not the way you want to inspire knowledge, but it was an effort. And I think you could look at that and appreciate those notes. He wasn't a one-note character. He did develop and he did become better with her. A lot of it, I think, through Lucian's wingmanning at the time, but I really appreciated him for a while. Then you're like, oh no, he's a shitbird. And then within the first 5 chapters of the next book, you're like, oh my God, he's insufferable. I can't wait for the Dark Daddy to show up and take her away again. Then he shows up and now he's both likable and unlikable in certain ways, but the only thing he's consistent in is his care for Feyre.
I think I like his decisions, what he's doing, they all make sense. I think I have a hard time with Feyre just immediately accepting him.
She's so young. It is a 20-year-old girl with, let's not even go with the fact that he's 500. Let's say he's a 50-year-old man. She sees him as having all of this experience. She sees a lot of the decisions he's made, even while he was under the mountain. And she trusts that while she may not know all of the details, he's got the right stuff in mind.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a real, again, chokehold of youth.
That's a really great point. That she's just young and accepts it, and she's like, that's my man.
Yeah, it's weird the things, when you think about how little she appreciated anything he did before, once he really built that trust with her, Feyre really finds it difficult to let that go. Because you find that even with Tamlin, when she went to the mountain and became healthy and stuff again, the first time she was going back.
That's right. She did kind of do this with Tamlin.
Yeah. Her dad. She asks about her dad, and he's been nothing for the entire fucking book. Any of the 3 books, really.
We still haven't heard about her dad.
We haven't. Look at how she treasures her relationship with her sisters, even though they haven't been formatively helpful. I would say Feyre is not a good friend, but Lucian's the only person we kind of saw her give up on, that I can think of anyway.
Yeah.
And Ianthe had to basically attempt to rape Rhys before she decided Ianthe was a garbage person.
I thought she always thought she was a garbage person, but not enough to do anything about it.
She thought she was her friend for the longest time, and then just thought she was kind of annoying.
You're right.
Yeah.
She did. This chapter, 29, is when Elaine gives that one prophecy. The twin ravens are coming, one white, one black.
Mm-hmm.
Feyre and Azriel, they're just training. I don't understand why they're training in the House of Wind area so she can't winnow. When if you are in a location where you can have these wings, you have your power for winnowing, and why not use both?
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know. I'm assuming it's worded specifically to avoid winnowing, not to avoid using your powers in general.
Where would they go that would have... Well, I guess... If you want to fly, you might as well be able to fly without winnowing. This is just falling back into...
I think it has to do with she's primarily gliding. She's not taking off. She's jumping off of things and gliding so that she can get the control of that first. Because if you can't land semi-gracefully, you probably shouldn't be trying to take off.
I just find it dumb that she's flying. I'm assuming that this is going to set us up for something badass where she's in an environment where she can't winnow, but she can fly, and she does something amazing. And I'm just we just have to accept that this is what it was all for. It was worth it in the end.
I would argue the thing that's going to make her ability to fly really cool would be she also has power of wind, so she can create updraft.
Yeah, that was another point that I was wanting to bring up is Dracon's army. When we heard about those people, they also have wings and they're feathered, but they also have powers with wind.
Okay.
You remember this?
I don't. They have some sort of elemental power, though, because
Yes.
they also parted the Red Sea in our next parallel.
Yeah, they did that. And they also have something with wind. And that stood out to me. And that's immediately where I was like, why doesn't Feyre do this?
Yeah, I think that she hasn't developed her ability to even use her wings to that degree yet.
Well, she's developed wind enough that Amber could tell us a secret that rocks can hear. And the wind shield did good enough.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. I think the wind control is there. I think the wing control is not yet there.
But if you can control the wind well enough, does it matter what your wings are doing?
Yeah, I would think your wings are going to still be heavily affected. Angles and whatnot being the primary thing.
That's a good point.
We all want to fly.
So you're defending Feyre.
Listen, here's what I'm here for. In general, I'm devil's advocate, baby.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this book. I just like to bring up the complaints I have to let you know I'm listening. I know what's going on around here. I just don't like it.
Feyre is looking for books. There's no books on the mirror. Everything that there was, it was very vague, and anyone who did look into it was useless because they went crazy.
Or did they go super intelligent? Dun.
Well, they all thought Elaine was going crazy too.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe they got something more out of it.
I also wondered if they get the mirror, if they could give it to the creepy thing down in the pit for company.
No, it wants to hear about life, and I don't think the thing in the pit knows about that, because I think the thing in the pit is a death god.
The brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also thought the lake, the sorcerer that we hear about later, the bone carver said that his brother, or its brother, was bound to a lake, and that was a small detail that was mentioned about the girls are trapped at a lake.
I thought he said Lake of Darkness.
He did. I also know that this lake where the girls are at with this sorcerer thing is not
What girls? What are we talking about? I'm confused.
The queen, the sixth queen, is one of many girls who is trapped by a sorcerer that Elaine was talking about. And Lucian is headed to go check it out.
Yes.
But Elaine talks about that there's multiple girls and something about a lake. And the only other time I heard anything about a lake was the brother to the bone carver.
Yeah, that's fair. I looked at it as a Lake of Darkness would be this place that is just all dark.
I also know it can't be that place because only Lucian is going. And Lucian by himself is not going to go take on some major character like that.
Wouldn't that be cool? Turns out Lucian just dies immediately. And that's why Elaine was going to come down and talk to him and be like, hey, dude, you're going to die if you go. But then she thought about it and she's like, this is the easiest way to handle this mating bond.
Bye.
Let nature take its course.
Miriam's story and parting of the sea happens in this one.
Yeah.
I had to re-listen to this a couple times to finally realize what was going on. The chain of events, what is going on. Because I was like, Miriam didn't die. And then she did die. At some point, she was revived. This story, I didn't realize also was about the cartographer. It took me a long time. It's one of those stories where I didn't understand the point of Azriel's story and where he was going with any of it because we focused on the cartographer. I'm like, did she make some special map that we find out about later? No, she's super fast. In the story of every year they fly, on land of course, reminds me of the stupid ruck march in Death Valley that they do in memorial of something, and just everybody punishes themselves in remembrance of something. And that's what I related to everybody doing this cartographer's flight every year.
I didn't realize they did a flight in memoriam of the cartographer.
Yeah.
I think I screwed that up.
And what and she's, they're lesbians. It took me forever to realize that. It was one single line that I heard, her and her wife.
Yeah, so her and her partner is a member of the military, right? And that's why she got to try out in the military, and then she fails. She fails every year.
She's got tiny little wings.
Yeah, well, she's got a deformed wing. She's got small wings, and the one's all deformed. He's like, it's gross. We try not to look at it, but it's fine. I'm assuming it's like got a bunch of feathers that look like it's been over-preened.
But if we were to look up fan art, they would probably be the most beautiful feathers we have ever seen. Kind of
like a mangled wing. You know, like if when you get a bunch of chicken from a place and you get that one chicken wing that's like the little wingy part's just a little too short and you're like, oh, this booger did not live a happy life.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
You look at chicken and try to think of their little lives before it came to your plate.
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh.
Depends. Well, not like for that purpose. Just sometimes you're eating and you're like, wow, this was a busty chicken, right? Like if you have a chicken breast, you're like, it's still meat. I haven't even got to the bone yet. This was like, they threw some D's on this bad boy. And then sometimes you get like one of the wings and you're like, wow, this could have been a falcon. Like it was a big wing. And you get a little wing and you're like, oh, this little guy, this part's big, this part's little. You're like, this one would have had a limp or something. Like, I don't know. It's wild.
So sad.
You don't do that ever?
No.
No, me neither. That'd be weird. I'm glad. Just two of us.
No, I'm going
normies.
to.
Yeah, I'm not establishing good habits. Try the veal.
Back to Miriam. Miriam was with the human slaves. I was forgetting the whole purpose and journey of Miriam's tales, essentially. It was to free human slaves. And the whole wall was made.
Who did Moses walk across the Red Sea after he parted it?
Yes.
Yeah, this is one of those just blatant parallels.
Yes.
Right?
And then there's the second one later.
Different heroes, Feyre and Yahweh. Two sides of the same coin. Oh my God, they're both a Deus Ex Machina.
Right.
You like that?
Can you
unsolvable problems?
Explain that again.
You want me to explain what a Deus Ex Machina is?
Yes, it came up because we were talking about the robot movies.
Yeah, so Ex Machina was a robot movie made in like 2013 or something. Does not matter. All I remember is Natalie Portman, I think, is in it. And anything Natalie Portman's in, I will watch. And you will watch gladly as well. Yeah, so
I'm totally on board.
I get it. It took me until just yesterday to realize, oh, that movie's called Ex Machina because it's the Deus Ex Machina, right? Which is a plot device, a person, anything that enters a story to help solve an unsolvable problem. So in the case of the Bible, all of these sinners are going to hell. What do we need? We need somebody to redeem it. So Jesus is the Deus Ex Machina. In this story, everybody's trapped under the mountain. They're about to be enslaved forever. Feyre is the Deus Ex Machina because nobody else could have made the deal. If Amarantha would have just had an open door policy to anybody who can solve this insane riddle, I'll let your court go if you can just solve this one thing. And then like the greatest Fey minds are all just really scrambling to come up with love. That would have been hilarious.
And you only get one chance.
Yeah, but you
overthink it.
You have so many people. You could have burned through a few hundred of them easy and eventually just brute forced your way to the answer. No problem. Honestly, I don't know how many Tamlin sacrificed to old women, but I feel like either way this could have been done. Regardless.
I thought the Ex Machina meant Ex Machine, and it was no longer machine. It was becoming human, is what I thought it meant.
I mean, maybe that's also it. I think it had more to do with we don't want to get into the plot of that movie.
We don't
because that is a whole episode.
Well, back to Miriam. She parted the sea. Well, she didn't part the sea.
Correct.
Draken parted the sea.
Draken's warriors did.
And is it Moses? Yeah, Moses.
Yeah, Moses slams that stuff back together, just like Draken and his warriors. Like, oh, no humans left behind. They go a little George W. with that bad boy. Last humans out. He's like, I think it's good to go. We can't hold the water back anymore. So then they shoot up into the sky, let the water go, and it crashes and defeats all the people, just like Jesus would have wanted.
I am pushing you along in this story.
All right.
We have found the parallels and moving along.
So many.
Why not put her wings away? Why keep them? Oh, yeah. Okay. This is such a stupid note. They get done flying, right? Azriel shares his story. She goes home. Her wings are sore. And Rhysand is there to give her a massage and all these things. And it obviously is setting us up for a sex scene. I don't remember much of the sex scene. I know enough about it to know she left her wings out the entire time. And I see this as keeping the wings out at this point is just a fetish.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing for this one. I specifically quit listening as this was happening because I just did not care. I'm like, I don't give a shit about your wings or how that affects your sex life.
She could get rid of all of the pain by making them disappear. Just put them away.
Andrew, you've been through this. She could do anything. She can shapeshift. And she's like, you know what he really wants? Wings.
Chapter 29 ends with them having their sex scene. She kept her wings out the entire time.
No, and this is in fairness to Feyre. After you've heard about how sensitive these bad boys are, you'd want to test it.
They did. Chapter 30 starts with the morning in the townhouse.
Hold on, you didn't acknowledge that?
Wait, what?
Wouldn't you want to try it?
I don't know.
What?
It was finally, actually, you brought this up in a couple discussions ago. The fact that they're not using their powers at all. This is her first time using essentially her powers in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And it was wings.
Yeah, but again, hearing about how sensitive they are.
True.
I don't know. I'm going to give her a pass on this one.
Chapter 30 starts with everyone in the townhouse. Elaine brings up, oh my God, Elaine brings up Cassian's wings and breaking. This was so sad because at this point I was already cluing in that she is like a oracle and it was essentially dying. And I think she called his death.
Yeah, she did. He thought they were referring to when he was in
the cauldron moment.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, it'll take more than that to kill me. And she's like, no, it won't. And that's when everyone's like, oh, okay.
It was so ice cold.
Yeah. But it was my first time really enjoying Elaine, to be honest, where she's like, your wings were breaking, the sounds of them cracking and bloody and blah, blah, blah. She's just gruesome as fuck. And he's like trying to be lighthearted. He's like, oh, take me down. She's like, no.
Turns out you're wrong.
Yeah, no, this time they're going to do it for real, homie.
Elaine brings up Cassian's wings. Then Feyre and Nesta go to the library. And this is when Feyre finally asks the freaking question I want to know the answer to. Why do you push everyone away except for Elaine? Since we didn't get an actual answer, I want to hear your answer to this.
I don't have one. I think it's in large part due to Nesta wanting to take care of somebody and Elaine needing to be somebody to be taken care of. And Feyre never gave off that same impression.
It was also them talking about Feyre not knowing how to read.
Yeah, I took that as a much bigger plot point here.
Nesta put the blame on Feyre. Why didn't you ask us?
I don't think so. I can understand where you would get that from this. I heard that much more as Nesta looking for why she wasn't comfortable asking.
So you think that it was more to do with Nesta trying to figure out why Feyre didn't feel comfortable asking her?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the point of it. Because Nesta feels guilty hearing that Rhys taught her to read.
Yeah.
Clearly Nesta is asking about Feyre outside of when Feyre is there to these other people who are close.
That's right. Yeah, she had discussions with Amren about Feyre.
Correct. So I think she's looking into herself, I think.
Mm.
I would agree that she could have approached it differently, but, what are you going to do? It's a little growth. We take those.
Yeah, I'm hoping they rehash out this discussion later and discuss it.
Maybe not holding on to that.
Yeah. And obviously, we've discussed this point a few other times where Elaine calls it that the two ravens appear. I wondered if the Phoenix referenced Lucian at this point. That is not true. Hybern ravens are there to take Nesta because she took too much from the cauldron.
Yeah, and what did she take?
It's like a something. They keep referencing something, not too much. Feyre keeps referencing too much, but it's
Well, she
something.
also keeps guessing what it was. Feyre has guessed it's death up to this point.
Even Nesta doesn't know what she took.
No, what I also find interesting is the ravens show up. They have some powdered Feybane that they just blew into the air at these women. That's air that they were walking through immediately afterward. First of all, everybody should have no powers at this point, right? You've atomized it. It's in the air. You motherfuckers are nebulizing your drugs.
Well, this kind of goes into drug use, and how quickly they enter determines how quickly they leave. So like intravenous versus through inhalation versus digestible. The digestible, I was following that it would take
Takes a while.
days.
Yeah.
And maybe referencing, okay, an digestible drug taking weeks
Sure.
for it to work out of your system, that the inhaled version,
Slow to metabolize, whatever the reason.
yeah, an inhaled one would be hours. But she doesn't talk about when her powers came back. It wasn't even due to her powers that Rhys found out. It was due to Clotho
Correct.
and ringing a bell.
Yes, a magic bell. It only rings for those inclined to hear it,
Yes.
basically. Which I think was a cool idea. I hadn't considered that they would have magic signal bells that only they could hear. It seems like you would develop a Morse code system that you could do this across courts. So you wouldn't need to go there and communicate, right? Make it a telegraph situation.
They must have something because they found out about Summer Court being attacked at the very end of
I
these
wonder if-
chapters.
Amren's aware of that, right? But the guy who Amren wanted, or who wants to bang Amren, was second in command there. I don't know. Maybe there was some conjugation going on, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe. Chapter 31, Feyre and Nesta begin running. I have no concept of what this area looked like.
Spiral staircase, big hole in the middle is what I thought. Hallways.
What was it like at the bottom? Just still spiraling, or did she hit like a floor empty? Where it doesn't matter, it was just darkness, so there was no imagery to be had in this chapter.
So I think the center isn't dark.
Yeah, because she told Elaine to go run to this light thing.
She told Nesta to, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well, she pushed Nesta to the outer edge of the stairs, right? Toward the center of the room, basically.
Yep.
And then...
knock down some books.
Yep, in their path, so they can't get to her. So I'm guessing it's like a spiral staircase, and then there's doorways, or something, so to speak. I picture it kind of like a missile silo. And you have platforms, kind of like castle doorways. That makes sense? Arched.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing's built out of stone, carved from the earth, I suppose. Regardless, it's a difficult thing to figure out.
I realized partway through that it probably didn't even matter because it was just darkness anyway. So if I imagine just being in a room that is dark with some books, and then when she says, then I felt leather, I did not take that to be leather-bound books. I took that to be she touched something she shouldn't have touched, and it is leathery.
Smelled of rich mahogany.
It freaked me out. And then I realized I was just in my own head over things. I'm like looking at you all disgusting. You're like, I don't know what you're looking at me for.
Oh, no, I figured what you were going for because I thought it was going to be kind of like a Necronomicon situation. Does that make sense?
I don't even know what to imagine with that.
Okay.
It just sounds
Are you familiar
creepy.
with what it is?
No.
All right. We're going to go on a quick little
Can I
history
Google?
type lesson.
Or are you going to describe it?
I'm going to describe it really, really quickly.
Okay.
Right. Basically, the Necronomicon is a book of death and technically rebirth, so to speak. Right. It's a book bound in skin. And part of this could have been, it's an old myth, right? From like Mesopotamian times. Because we're then, oh man, I want to get into so many crazy things that have nothing to do with this.
Book?
Yes, the Necronomicon is what would allow you to know the art of necromancy in order to raise the dead. But it's a book bound in the skin of people.
Oh, we've talked about this. Every time it comes up of serial killers, sometimes you and your sister will bring up the one that like made furniture.
Mm-hmm. All kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh,
but no,
creepy.
this book is different. This would have been made in, like I said, Mesopotamian times. Google it. It'll do a better job.
It sounds creepy.
Well, the one that you would most commonly associate with a visual image would be the depiction in like Ash versus Evil Dead.
I also think of the Harry Potter book when you're describing this. There was this weird...
they talk.
Yeah.
They have mouths.
There was the one that had like a mouth on the face of it. It would like bite.
The Necronomicon in Ash versus Evil Dead also has a face.
Right. I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
Ew, this is creepy.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Doctor Who lady where she is stretched out on that thing.
Oh man, I always, when I see the Doctor Who lady, I think of dissecting frogs. This is different.
Yeah, but this is like her face stretched out. That was so weird.
Yeah, and again, this is all based, and it's used in a million things. So when I heard I felt leather, and I was like, okay, leather was a binder for books.
This is the type of book that would be at the bottom of this pit.
This was the image that hit my head, and I was like, oh shit, she's gonna learn some dark magic, and then it turned out not to be anything.
I am so grossed out by this. What do you think this creature thing was?
I told you, I think it's the death god. I think it's the brother.
What do you think it looked like? Or is it just shadow? Which is essentially Rhys.
No.
Too many shadows going on in one story.
No, and I don't think shadows are scary to these people. I don't think you could make a shadow that makes Cassian turn pale and sick. I don't think you can make a shadow that makes these ravens immediately quiver upon seeing it. I don't know what it is, and I think it's purposefully ambiguous.
So your imagination can fill it with whatever you think is creepy.
Yeah, it's just this book.
That is also how I felt about when it asked, do you want me to kill them? And she's like, yes, please. And the way that it killed them, in my head, it was gruesome.
So
What did you imagine?
I'm going to give you a small correction. It didn't kill him.
It didn't.
Rhys
I know.
killed him. Therefore, should she
torturing them?
Therefore, should she have to make good on the bargain?
To take care of them is, I think, what the bargain was. And
but
then
he
it
did clarify,
asked,
do you want me to kill them? And then she says, yes.
what if it's just like a lonely beast that can't leave that area?
I think it wants to hear about life the same way the bone carver wants to hear about death.
Oh my God.
Hold on,
I
just
think
wait,
you're
just
right.
Just wait, I'm not done yet. I think when we discuss what does it look like, I think similar to the bone carver, it doesn't have a fixed form. I think that it can be interpreted as whatever that person most fears is what it looks like.
Oh my God. That's why they keep their eyes closed. Oh my God. That's such a good theory.
I know, right? This would have been hot off the presses 8 years ago when this book was written. Now everybody listening already knows the answer.
I know.
Except me.
Well, aside from that creepy book, chapter 31, we got through it. Who would she make the deal to? I have the little thing screaming continued after she left.
Oh, do you think that part of the reason why I was slowly killing them is because you can learn a lot about life through like the final moments?
That is disgusting, and I am so disturbed.
Why am I in trouble? That's the most angry eye contact.
Because I'm supposed to go to bed here soon.
Well, no,
and
I
that's
just mean
creepy.
No, I don't mean it like that. I mean the sense of, what do you most commonly hear before somebody dies? Their life flashes before their eyes.
Stop.
No?
This is freaky. If Elaine is creepy to me, this is even creepier.
I don't know if we're the audience for this book.
I think that it's not that creepy. I think it's my level of creepy and just what I fill it in with. And then you're just like, you know how I can crank this up?
I sincerely thought that was the intention. Just theorizing. I was having fun. My bad.
You introduced a creepy ass book.
You thought it was a creepy book.
Theories.
The look you gave me when we heard that part and I'm driving, I specifically noticed you looking at me and then I looked forward.
I pictured elephant skin. Just like a big elephant. My innocent little mind didn't picture
Well, how did you come up with elephant skin?
leathery skin.
And why is that more innocent than people skin? Why do you hate
I
elephants?
thought it was a big leather thing. I don't know.
I don't know. You're coming off like a real pachyderm piece of shit right now. Why are you so mean to pachyderms?
Chapter 32, she has a new tattoo. Feyre kind of like plays it off like it's no big deal. She's like, oh, this whole thing?
Just part of the sleeve.
I barely made a bargain. I didn't tell it how long.
It's
I
a small
didn't
one.
say it was me.
Do you picture it as just like a barbed wire tattoo going on your bicep?
Yes. But it's on her forearm.
Yeah.
It's like a cheesy black bar all the way around, other than there's like 2 gaps in it, I think is how it was described.
So it's 3 rings.
Oh, 3 rings.
Well, if it goes all the way around and it's a black bar, that would be 1 ring. But if there are 2 gaps in that, you have 3.
I pictured it the other way,
Gaps.
where it's 1 big ring that is broken by 2 blank swipes.
Versus just trisecting it.
Yeah.
All right. That
Yeah.
makes total sense.
Either way, she seems nonchalant about what she just got herself into.
She's very chalant. Okay.
Yeah, she got herself into another mess, and she's like, all right, guys, I know things look bad right now, but let's look on the bright side.
And-
We're all alive.
Even Rhys-Anne is just like, the fuck do you mean what's wrong? Like, I love that she asks this into Bond, and he's like, I'm going to say this shit out loud because I
Yeah,
feel like I'm
'cause he
losing my
forgot.
goddamn mind. I don't even think so. I think he just wanted to be validated by other people. He's like, this woman is not understanding what the hell is wrong. He's like, I need to be validated. Let me do this. And then he goes through and he's like, this is a problem. This is a problem. This is a problem. This is a problem. And now you're out here making deals with the devil. Like, what the fuck? What do you mean what's wrong? And she's like, it's not that bad. We're all still alive. And Elaine's over there like, for now. And then just quietly disappearing into a corner again.
My head is still stuck on the thing in the pit. Remember when Feyre gets to see Cassian's vision? Do you think, if your theory was true, right, that it's a death god?
Oh, yeah.
And that it can transform into whatever you fear most, and that through Cassian's memory of it, it could still change what it looks like and be what Feyre fears most, not what Cassian actually saw, but what Feyre would have seen in that memory?
So I don't picture it that way.
Almost like if the bone carver was on video, would it be what you saw, he saw?
So I'm going to tell you why I have the theory I have about this.
Okay.
I picture this similar to it's manipulating your mind as if you were schizophrenic, right?
Okay.
What makes it look so real to you is your individual perception of what you're seeing. A tool for schizophrenic people can be using the camera of their phone to take a video, watch the video back, and if they do not see a visual hallucination,
Yep.
right? If they take a video of that, oftentimes then they look at the video on their phone and they see it isn't there and they're aware of it. That is a visual and or audio hallucination. I don't think so. I think if she was in Cassian's mind and looked at it, she would see it however Cassian saw it. But that is, again, based on absolutely nothing to do with this book. Entirely to do with just my
That was fun.
thoughts
No,
on it.
I was just curious because you've creeped me out, and that's where my mind is at. Even though I'm saying other things, my head is still in that place. So
I really enjoyed it.
that'll be fun later tonight.
I'll be the creepy shadow behind you.
Stop it.
Oh, I meant it in a different kind of creep.
Oh, this is whispering sweet nothings.
Sure.
Feyre notices that Rhys was sloppy with the intel from the Ravens because he was the one that killed them. And he did it with his hands? Now I'm confused. That made it seem like he put his hands in their brains and crushed them and melted them because he does that with his mental talents.
I think he could have just murdered them. While he's using his mental talents to read their mind, he's then just breaking necks or ripping throats.
Yeah.
I don't think he had to enter their skull for the murder to occur. I like where your head's at, but no, I took it as he was just so rage-filled. He wanted to first destroy their minds and then feel the life leave them.
That's wild. And he didn't get any intel from them. I don't even think we heard any.
No, he got some. He said he
What?
got in there and he got what he needed, and then he murdered them.
We don't know what he needed, though.
No, I'm sure it was to figure out if they were aware of anybody else that was here, where the King of Hybern might be, blah, 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 what his plans are that they would be aware of. But again, so far we have to assume the King of Hybern is smart enough not to tell anybody enough shit to actually get them in trouble, right?
Yeah.
They did have some intel on the queens, though, right?
I think they got more.
Feyre.
They got more intel on the queens from Elaine than they did these guys.
Well, other than whatever, the queens went in there, they weren't turned into young, beautiful Fae.
Right.
It stole the
Only
youth.
one went.
Yeah, because the other people saw what the fuck happened. We sent in the young one and she came out looking all haggard and shit, and she's stuck like that for eternity. Here's the thing that really kills me. When we think about it took her youth, but granted her eternal life, the fact that those things aren't considered equitable, and the Fae don't live forever, right? The Fae are not immortal.
I thought they were immortal.
They live long enough lives to be nearly considered immortal. But they do age. Look at the healer.
You're right. Well, one time you compared them to lobsters.
Yeah, which the old lady destroys that because the fact that there's an old Fae, we don't know how old she would be. She had to be one of the first ones, though, right? Because Amren's 15,000 years old. She's quite a bit older than the Wall, the Fae, and everything else.
Yep.
We don't know how old she was when she came to this world. She was not an adolescent, but she pre-existed Prithian,
Yeah.
right? And then we know Rhys is at least 500 years old and appears to be about 25. So to live long enough to then be actually old, I don't know. We've never heard of another one.
You're right. Well, they go back. They're all talking about it. I like that Cassian asks how Feyre's doing, and they genuinely is checking in on everybody. We learn from Elaine, the queen with the feathers aflame. I don't understand what's going on. Still pretty cryptic.
I assume that's our sixth queen,
Yeah.
the one who was never shown to us.
She's called a seer, which I find to be a weird name.
So
and I already established.
oracle.
Yeah, I've already established. I'm calling her an oracle.
I wonder what the difference is.
I feel as though an oracle can interpret what they're seeing. Elaine doesn't seem to be able to interpret what she's seeing. And another thing that I noticed with Elaine is when they acknowledge her visions and the things she sees, it grounds her. She becomes more lucid anytime they acknowledge what she is saying.
Lucid is such a good term for this too, because she does come off like she has dementia and is just kind of losing it.
And, well, they use the word in the book. Feyre helped me out with that one.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get
Well,
there on my own.
I honestly took this as just, I'm like, oh man, lucid is great because then we can relate it to
Lucian.
Alzheimer's, dementia.
Right,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, lucid Lucian. That's what we call him. Lucid lube.
Chapter 33, they all realize Elaine isn't crazy and ask her a bunch of questions.
To which she's able to give him answers for the most part.
That's when I realized that she became more lucid the more they talked to her.
Yeah, they acknowledge that she's not just a lunatic.
Yes.
That's true.
Says the sixth queen was cursed to the sorcerer that keeps girls at a lake. I wrote down the note, their death god, question mark? But now that I know only Lucian is going there to try to save the queen, I know it's not a death god.
You know a song, God Save the Queen?
No. Yes, I'm sure I do. I just don't know it when you say
There's
it.
so many of them, but like the real punk one, it's like, God Save the Queen.
Yeah.
No, never mind. Let me see. Lucian save the Queen. You just replace the lyrics. In a fascist regime. Doesn't matter. It's an anti-royalty song from England.
I love it. Firebird during the day, Nightwalker at night as a human.
Nightwalker at night. Oh, good.
Almost like a
You,
werewolf.
oh my God, no. You never saw the Blade movies. You know Blade's a vampire?
Yes, I
Okay.
did know this.
You know he fights other vampires?
Yes, I didn't know that. I'm learning this right now.
Oh, okay.
Tell me more.
The main bad guys are the original vampires, blah, 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 right? So what makes Wesley Snipes so special?
He's a vampire.
No, they are also vampires. The bad guys are vampires, and he's a vampire.
He's a badass vampire.
Yeah, he's a daywalker.
Oh, that's where this is going.
Yes, he can be in the sun and not explode, but he has to wear sunglasses. I think he doesn't really need them, but he should, because otherwise every time he takes them off, they made him wear these crazy contacts. So I think the sunglasses were actually just a way so that he wouldn't have to constantly be wearing these wild contacts. I wish I was joking. I'm pretty sure that's the actual thing.
We got to learn about Lucian's eye also and what it does.
It sees magic.
He's constantly analyzing with it in this book until this moment now that we know what it is. And it doesn't quite seem to make sense. He's often looking... This means that he knew the entire time that Feyre was glamoring her arm in the spring court. The entire time.
Well, he knew there was magic on that arm.
I thought he could see through glamours.
Oh, you're right. He does see through glamours. Maybe she still wore long sleeves for funsies.
Maybe.
Or maybe that's why his metal eye and russet eye narrowed all the time.
Now it makes me... I wish that I wrote down all the times that they brought up his eye and what he was looking
I think
at.
what's fun is at some point we're just going to re-listen to these books.
I don't think I will.
Oh. Well, you don't spend as much time at work bored out of your fucking mind as I do. I will be through these books 3 times by the end of the year.
So Lucian is getting ready to go find the queen. Feyre takes another bath. I think we kind of skip. Oh, this is where I thought it was going to be another bath scene. It was actually a sweet moment where she's taking care of Rhysand and cleaning him up and washing his hands.
Yeah.
In chapter 34, Amren hunted. What did you picture when he said, everyone get inside, Amren's going out hunting? What did that look like? Amren can't fly. She's a small little person hunting, viciously, scary. I just kind of saw her like running through the streets, hunched over a little bit.
Oh, I saw her lightly strolling, looking around with those silver eyes, just glowing at night, looking around, trying to see anybody out of place.
That's way more badass than what I had. I had her just like running super fast through the street.
Just scuttling. You ever scuttling? Yeah, goddamn, like Sonic the Hedgehog. There's just a little blur going behind her. And the lightning bolts. She's the Flash. Sweet Dreams starts playing in the background and she just does her Quicksilver moment.
Yes.
Yeah, would that be cool? No, so that's sort of what I'm actually imagining, only from the perspective of somebody who is not Amren in this moment, where it would be like, oh, you look out the window and Amren's silver eyes are darting at you from a quarter of a mile away. You're like, oh, fuck, we close the blinds real quick. And then somebody is out and about when they shouldn't be. They're miles up there. And they're like, oh, shit, it's Amren. And they turn around and she's right there.
That's so creepy.
And she's like, are you going somewhere? They're like, no, I'm just going home. She's like, interesting. Where is home? They're like, that house over there. And the person's standing in the window just shaking their head no. And she's like, is home Highburn? And then he's like, no, I swear. And she's like, I'll tell if you're lying or not. She drinks a little bit of his blood.
Ew.
Well, that's what she does. She's a vampire.
Well,
And then she tries a little bit. Of, she's like, yeah, this tastes like shit. She spits it out. She's like, you Highburn pig. And then just rips his skull off his body, Mortal Kombat style. That's the end.
That's much better than what I pictured. Thank you.
Okay,
that
walk
really
me through
fixed the
yours
scene.
now.
She just was like,
No. You have to be descriptive.
I
Give
can't.
me a scene.
I just pictured like the Twilight running in the movie, and she's just running really fast everywhere.
Now I'm picturing. Do you remember those kids? What was it called? The Naruto run. They just stick their arms behind him and zoom, lean forward. That's what you pictured. And you think she's just
trying to
running?
figure out hunting.
Okay, is she just running quickly, or is she running literally at like the speed of sound?
No, she was just. It was.
Or is she just full
stupid.
speed sprinting at a whopping 18 miles an hour?
Don't know. I couldn't figure it
Just
out.
looking around. Take me through. I want to know what's happening in your mind.
Well, then they add that they all put blood on their doors. Immediately changed the scene for me, and I thought of the movie Prince of Egypt, which you have not seen yet, and you need to see this.
Is this live action or is this
It's a cartoon, but like a 2000s stuff.
Is this the one that it comes up all the time?
Yes.
You're like, why haven't you seen this? Is there a lady with white hair?
No, same era. That one is Atlantis.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
She's a smoke show. There, I think, is a smoke show in this one.
I haven't seen either of these.
I don't know,
I
but
did watch Road to El Dorado with you though. I've seen that one now.
Smoke show in there. The signs were there in childhood.
Stand by. Will she go from Kim Possible?
Prince of Egypt is kind of, I'm not going to go into what it's about. We just need to watch it sometime. But it goes through the scene where all the people put lamb's blood on the tops of their doors, and they're like these little Pueblo things. They don't really have doors. They're just like little wooden doors that are just like propped up in some of them, and it always freaked me out. Like the wind could blow down, and some of the people didn't, and this was just to kind of prove like
the wealthy people had doors.
Well, it didn't matter. It was the blood that mattered, because it really freaked me out as a child.
Goat?
You borrowed somebody.
This is a real thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's when this scene happened. Now I'm picturing Prince of Egypt. We have these little Pueblo door things. And in this movie, there's like this wind that blows through the city and it checks all the doors for the blood, and those that didn't have the blood, it went inside. So this is what Amren's doing in my head. She's running really fast,
Sniffing doors for blood.
just checking the doors for the blood, and the ones that don't have it, she goes inside.
So they don't mention where the blood comes from, right?
They did. Goats.
It's all goat's blood on the doors.
Lamb. Sorry, not goats. It's lamb.
In this book.
In this book, they said lamb.
All right. So it's baby sheep. Everybody's out there murdering baby sheep.
That breaks my heart.
Well, it could be worse. I don't know how. It could have been puppies or something. But right.
Well, either way, I'm just picturing super fast Amren sneaking all the doors.
Relatively quick Amren. You were like picturing somebody running like Usain Bolt, where it's fast, but not that fast.
Well, and then
you could just see her and you could hear her little footsteps, just like.
Well, and in this movie, all the families are huddled up, almost like it's a tornado warning going through the city.
In numbers.
Yep. So they put the lamb's blood on their doors, and they all hide and they're huddling as the night goes on. And I'm
what are they hiding from in the Prince of Egypt?
There's some type of plague going on. Like God said, this plague is going to come over your city, I believe, and those who put lamb's blood, follow the rules, will be protected.
Sounds very God to me.
And I could have all of these facts wrong, but this is based off of my memory at 7 years old.
No, this sounds fair to me.
Anyways, that's Amren.
Wait, Prince of Egypt, and they're not going into like the Egyptian gods, they're just choosing the Christian god?
That was the point of the whole movie.
Were they saying it was the right move or the wrong move to do that?
It was those who believed in Egyptian gods were plagued.
No. Okay. Are you sure we need to watch this?
And in the same movie is the parting of the sea. But
yeah,
I find it kind of
VeggieTales
on steroids.
No such thing.
So not quite the rated R, but definitely intense for a cartoon.
What, Passion of the Christ for kids?
Yes, exactly. It definitely put the fear of God into me, and I was terrified.
But the wrong God. Now Ra will have mercy on yours.
Well, chapter 34, that happens.
I want to touch on this for just one more second. I'm so sorry for drawing this out. But in your mind, it's just a small woman running up door to door, making sure it's blood, not paint. And
she's sniffing the blood to make sure it's lamb and not some other animal. Because that was another thing in Prince of Egypt. It was very specific on the type of blood that was being used.
Goats. Amren is on the hunt, right? In your thing, she's a little less awesome.
I think of Twilight a little bit because they hunt in that, and they're people hunting for blood and eating like a vampire. And I just pictured that's how Amren hunts.
What throws me off is it's really an element of worship, right?
She was a god.
She was deified, but
yeah.
I find it interesting that in this happy-go-lucky, city of dreams, they still need to Purge is coming through tomorrow. Time to throw the goat on the door.
Imagine living in Valaris. Your life is going so great. Centuries of just happiness and peace.
But you're a vegan who's morally opposed to killing an animal. And you're like, well, I'm not putting the goat on my door. And she can't make me. And then she shows up and just murders you. And she's like, sorry, if you didn't want to be murdered, I thought you were going to put a goat out there.
And it didn't make sense in Prince of Egypt either. If you were a bad guy trying to hide in a city and everybody's putting blood on their door, wouldn't you put blood on the door of the place you're staying at?
Wouldn't it be more weird if somebody came into the city like 2 days ago and they stop at the old real estate office in town and are like, yeah, I need a 2-bedroom. They're like, wow, we're a hidden city that nobody's supposed to know about. Where did you hear from us? Nobody knows you here.
Customer service fill out form. Like, how did you hear about us?
Also, they need references, right? To rent a place. And he's like, oh, man, I can't put the King of Honeyburn in here. I don't know anybody from around here. I don't know. I think the logistics of this is so funny to me. I enjoy this so much. Being a spy in the old days would be so fun. You just make anything up.
Turns out Azriel is still a disappointment of a spy to me, and they haven't redeemed him in his spy skills yet.
I would agree, actually.
He doesn't know the queen's names. They point that out, and all that did was disappoint me more because they all turned to Azriel just like, so what do you know about the queens? What can you share with us? It's like, I don't have much. Like, good job, Azriel. You got caught and you don't know shit about the queens.
Wouldn't it have been funny if they asked him about the queens and then he just starts talking about like prolific gay people in Prithian? Wouldn't that be awesome? Where he's like, well, interesting you bring that up.
Azriel, you're supposed to be.
We have Facebook's drag race going on. It'd be so.
What did you just say?
Just Faye Paul. I just room for Faye. I didn't do anything prolific with it either. But, you know, they can call it Faye Bane. I can call it anything. Where did we leave off?
Lamb's blood.
Oh, yeah, it was drag race. Oh, man. Yeah.
Rhys and Mor went back to the House of Wind to go talk to the priestesses. And they bonded a little bit there, work things out a little more by...
You gotta be careful throwing around that word.
Why is that?
Bonding.
Oh, especially with Rhys and Feyre.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Lucian is going to help them out? Actually help the queen?
Yeah.
Is he going to do something? Because Rhys brings up he wasn't in a fox mask for nothing. Is this the moment?
I don't think that it means he's deceptive. I think it means he's clever. And I think that is such an important distinction. I think what he was saying is Lucian isn't stupid. He's not easy to manipulate.
Okay.
When he said he wasn't in a fox mask for nothing. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think
because I don't think there's anything inherently distrustful about a fox.
I think he's going to be clever in helping him and Elaine find a life for themselves outside of the Night Court.
I think he also cares for Feyre. And I think him taking Rhysand's hand before he leaves was symbolic in a sense.
It was a nice moment of just trust. They put aside their differences and their pettiness towards each other.
Yeah, they have a common goal.
Nesta, close to training with something tangible. She's getting to a point with mental walls.
She's going to be able to build real walls.
Yes.
And then she's really Trump's girl. She's going to build that wall and keep the humans south. We don't want them coming up here and taking our jobs. The humans are going to take all our Fae men. Fucking dumb.
And Hybern is attacking Adriana. That is what chapter 34 ends on.
Yeah, brutal. What do you think they're going to do with that?
I think Hybern has enough forces to attack the Summer Court enough to pull Rhysand away from the Night Court to then attack the Night Court.
So you think that Rhysand's going to be the one to go there and fix what ails him, so to speak?
Try at the expense of his own court, because they are definitely the mindset of protect all and not just making sure their court is set, that I think it's going to bite them in the butt. In the end of the book, it will be worth it, but I think temporarily it's not going to work out great for them.
I hear where you're coming from. I think if I'm Rhysand in this situation, I'm sending more Cassian, maybe Azriel, down there to go help out.
Makes sense. There's a hit on him and Feyre.
And Amren.
Yeah.
I think I'm keeping Feyre and Amren right where they're at. Amren, your goal is just to continue making Nesta useful to our cause. We're going to start really paying attention to what Elaine says.
Yeah.
We're going to let her sit with the librarian, and every time she utters some nonsense, that librarian's going to have to doodle some shit. Oh, so it can't be Cloaca. What's her name?
Clotho.
Don't act like that was such a huge stretch.
All right.
Clotho's not a real word. Cloaca is arguably the closest real word to that. It can't be Clotho, because Clotho cannot use her digits. We need
that's right. She can't write.
Yeah, she's not our scribe. Okay, we're going to have to pick one of these priestesses, whom I don't trust entirely.
Like there was only one that was spared. I found that suspicious.
Was there only one that was spared? I thought there were several priestesses.
Only one was spared.
You mean when they first went through and were getting the feet to the thing?
No, I'm talking about after the Nesta and Feyre being attacked by the two Raven men, there was only one priestess that was spared. They killed them all.
So I thought that there were several, but there was one that was like specifically not harmed, but they didn't go through and murder every priestess in that place to get to these girls. It was just they murdered the ones along the way.
Yes, except for one.
Right. So I would agree that one is suspicious. I think they're all suspicious, but I think that might just be Ianthe has sort of ruined this for me. I don't trust any of them bitches, even though none of the other ones like Ianthe, which shows maybe the priestesses as a whole are great judges of character. I don't know.
I don't fully understand their purpose. They're priestesses, but they're librarians.
No, the librarians and the priestesses are separate entities.
Oh, I thought they were the same.
No, the priestesses are there as a safe haven right now. That's the idea. The library is supposed to be a place they can be, and nothing can get to them. It's warded heavily and separately. Nothing can get in here, blah, blah, blah. That's why the King of Hybern burned this super powerful one-time use. They kept saying that. It's a one-time use spell.
And this is where the Raven men are really terrible.
They gave all the details.
They gave up all the details. He uses this one-time spell. And if I was the King of Hybern and I knew that they showed up and they just didn't grab her and leave, they had a whole dialogue talking and just like creepy walking behind. It was all unnecessary. It was all for show, and they're terrible at their jobs.
So I'm going to go on a short little diatribe about what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
Feyre, Rhys, I don't know. Amren maybe will have to show up for this. They're going to go on a recruiting cycle. Feyre's going back underneath that library. She's like, hey, we made a deal. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about life for now. Not going to be here forever, but we'll have a quick discussion. How would you like to help us out? Because those fuckers that came down here will straight up destroy your home. This creature is either bound or, like the bone carver, just thinks the library is home.
It mentioned that it knows that she wants to use the bone carver and use it, but yet that had nothing to do with their deal. It was just mentioned.
It's rare because it can hear through the rocks. Like everybody else, those little rock ears and little rock mouths are whispering sweet nothings to this group. So I think they recruit them. I think they recruit the bone carver. I think they're going to recruit the weaver. They're going to have this super special, powerful, I think of it like in the pantheon of gods, right? You had the Titans, which pre-existed them, right before they were caged, so to speak, by Zeus. And
I only know what this is because we recently watched the cartoon adaptation of Hercules.
Heracles, whatever. Fine, my pedantic bullshit will not stop. Point is, I think of these guys as Titans. And I think Amren's like one of them. They're above the High Lords. They're above whatever natural phenomena currently oversee this world. They are masters of that. So in this war, I think they are going to become super necessary. And that's going to kind of be a Feyre job.
It was mentioned that even the King of Hybern wouldn't be stupid enough to release them, the gods. And here is Feyre.
Being just stupid enough.
Just stupid enough to make deals with 3 of them.
Do you remember the movie Master of Disguise?
Yes.
Do you remember when he's like, an idea so dumb, it's just a man at work. Right? That's exactly what this is.
Just Feyre.
Feyre. So stupid, it just man at work. I'm starting to think that Feyre is an incredible character. I'm not angry at Feyre. Feyre is an idiot, but she's like that village idiot that you need. You win wars by just finding the most powerful shit you can and throwing it at somebody else and worrying about it later.
That's exactly it.
Listen.
She doesn't think about what happens after the bone carver does his end of the deal. Then what?
Listen.
And is the bone carver going to transform in a way after release the same way that Amren talked about how she would be released? She wouldn't know anyone. She wouldn't have any of these feelings, emotions, or any of it.
I'm going to equate this to, she's our little Eisenhower, you know? You're familiar with Dwight Eisenhower?
No.
He was president of the United States during World War II, the majority of World War II.
I don't know what he did.
Commissioned the atomic bombs.
Oh, that's Feyre.
Yeah. So I think That's it. She's kind of like a shoot first, and not to say that decision went without any weight. I'm positive there was a lot going on. But you got the General MacArthur of the group is the one who's like, hey, let's work some shit out here. We don't need to go nuclear, no pun intended, up to that point. And then it turns out somebody else is like, actually, we're done fucking around. And sometimes that's the idiot you need. Where you're like, okay, actually, this did pretty much answer our questions. And then you're like, well, what are you going to do afterward? And they're like, I was selected to lead, not to read. And then they just keep moving on. You're like, oh shit, that was cool. That's Feyre.
Early on in this series, I had a moment of appreciating that not everything worked out perfectly for Feyre. We've now hit a point that I think everything is always working out for Feyre, to the point that she believes it because she's just like, I'm just going to worry about that later because it's going to work out for me.
True, but I do appreciate that they show struggle.
Yes. And that we get to hear about everybody else dealing with the consequences of their choices.
Agreed.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to add in these chapters?
No, the only thing I would like to add to this is Feyre is not the primary point of this story for why I'm still listening at this point. And I do appreciate that.
Amren is.
It's a broad book. It's Amren, it's Nesta, it's Azriel.
Yeah.
Like, there is so much room for growth. Nesta is also going to be a big Billy badass when it comes to the fight. I'm genuinely curious where the fuck Mirium and Draken are. I'm really nervous about what the hell's going on with Tamlin.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, Tamlin's court's falling apart all around him. It's like, yeah, you're about to ask that fool for help, and now he has no control over his people. How much help is he really going to be? I don't know. I'm genuinely excited for that. Also, I think the best way to get the other seasonal courts involved with the night court in this is to go save the summer court.
Yeah. And I think that's what they're headed to do next.
I think so.
Ready to start it?
Let's do it.
I love you.
I love you.
You're my bestie.
You're my bestie. It was a great time. We had fun. Now get out and go live your life.
No, wait. No. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate and love you all. Please follow us here, TikTok or Instagram at Shadow Daddies Podcast.
And then go live your life.
Bye.
Bye. Get out. We're done. This was Daggers and Shadow Daddies. Now it's my time. Toodaloo. It was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you. But that's all we've got. Goodbye. Come back in a few days. We love you.